Hi everyone, it's Mark here at MAS Audio, and we are back with another video and another audio install. Now we are in a BMW X5, which is the first BMW X5, which was the E53 I believe. This one has the navigation. Now a lot of people want to change these head units but don't actually realise there's no power or speaker connections behind this actual screen in the dash. It's just got some data connectors which run all the way back to the boot of the vehicle, and all the actual radio components and the speaker connections and amplifier are all situated in the rear of the car. So you have to run a cable all the way from the back, all the way along, all the way to the front and up behind the dash before you can even think about putting a stereo in there. So we're going to show you what is involved with this, and we'll let you know how it goes, and we should be able to show you the process, what we have to do to get it all done. Right, so let's get on with it, and we'll talk you through the process of what we're doing. First thing we're going to do is remove this front screen from the car, and then we'll look at the boot area after that. Right, so the first thing we're going to do here is remove this trim panel. Just need to get our trim tool in here. Just carefully go around, pop that out. It's only held on with some little clips which are just along the bottom there. There's a couple at the top as well, so that comes out nice and easy. The screws are trying to escape. I'll get that one in a minute. So these are T8 screws that you need, screw bit. There we go. So with that piece removed, all you've got is these two plugs. So there's no power, no speaker wires or anything at this end. They're purely just to control everything and run this screen. That's all it's for. You can see on the back of the unit there the connectors as well. Got those T8 Torx, two top corner ones, two down here, and then you can lift the whole thing out. Okay, so here's just a quick look of all the parts you need for the BMW install. Now obviously we've got a new head unit here, then we've got the steering wheel patch lead and the steering wheel harness, an ISO harness, which is the same for most cars. You buy one of these and one of these. This plugs into the car's original loom. This is for your aftermarket radio. Then we've got this huge loom, which has also got some quad lock connectors on, which go into this, and that's the lead that you need to run all the way from the boot connector all the way through the car up to here, to plug the stereo in. As well as that, we've got the aerial adapter and also another extension cable for the aerial. And then we've got the dash kit, and then some fitting instructions where you've got to measure and drill holes and do all sorts of other bits and bobs to get that in as well. So there we go, there's all the parts you need, and also a rear camera, because we're putting a rear camera in this one as well. Okay, so coming to the next stage, we've got to make the brackets fit the car, and you get this little instruction sheet with it, which tells you about lining up the brackets and then drilling holes in the plastic. So we've got that here, which we have drilled. Well, you position that in the corner like that and drill your holes 1 and 2 through there. So we've done that piece. And then the next piece, just there, gives you some measurements to drill in here. So as you can see, let's get a bit more light than you might be able to see. Turn my light around. So we've had to drill some holes here. You can see I've got a hole here and a hole here, which I've just drilled. So you've got to measure 17mm down from the top and 19mm in. And then from this hole it's 32mm down and then 21 from the edge. And then once you've drilled that, your bracket will then fix into position, and the holes, as you can see, line up. So I've measured it right. So then that will be fixed to that. The bracket will then sit on there. So let's see roughly how this is going to lay out. So yeah, you've got that bracket bolts on there, and then this bracket bolts onto that, and then your stereo is bolted onto these brackets, and that's basically what holds it all in. So yeah, lots of fun measuring and drilling holes. Not the normal car audio install, but this is why it's more expensive to do one of these cars that's got the navigation as opposed to one that's just got the normal radio cassette and CD changer. Now if you had the normal radio cassette and CD changer, you don't have to go through all this mess of drilling holes and running the extension cables through the car, because everything is actually behind the dash. Right, so we've done this side, we've got to do the other side, and then we've got to get the wiring done. So let's move on to the next step. Right, so ignore part of what I said a minute ago, because I did it wrong. I made a mistake, a bit of a boo-boo, but nothing that can't be solved. So when I said about the measurements, I was taking the measurements from the back up to here. It's not, it's actually from the front edge. I just looked at the picture and thought it was different. So it's actually measuring from here to the centre of the hole, which is 19mm for the top one, and then measuring 21 to the centre of the hole for the bottom one. And then you've got 17 from the top, and then you've got 32 from this hole to this hole. So I've checked it all out again and measured it all up, and that's all correct, so we'll get our brackets fitted now. Okay, so that's the fascia panel test fitted. Everything looks good. Now I can take the fascia panel off, which will have some clips on the back. I haven't put them on yet because I didn't want to have to go pulling clips out, but that goes on last. These are your brackets for your stereo. You can see the holes. We've had to drill these holes as well on either side to make the brackets fit. So these mount your stereo, and there are the brackets fitted, and that's how they fit in. So we're just going to bolt the stereo to the frames and then test fit all that as well, make sure that all lines up all nice. We don't see any problems with that because these are all a set size and set distance, so everything should be fine. And then we're going to get on with the wiring. Okay, so we've just temporarily put in our stereo. We've bolted the brackets onto the side of the stereo and got the distances right with the fascia panel. And as you can see, those mounting holes line up, and then when we clip that in on its clips later, that will fit in, and that's what it's going to look like when it's all done. Looks pretty good. So the test fit is all worked out okay, the brackets are all mounted, so now it's time to get on with the next stage. Okay, so got a few more bits done. We've run the USB cables and the GPS antenna wire. GPS antenna is actually hidden up at the top of the dash underneath, and the USBs just come into the glove box. And we've also got the microphone up there at the top. The wire is hidden along here and then comes down here, and I've got it taped off here just to avoid this screw hole, and I'll explain what that screw hole is for in a minute. And then just tuck the wire along. We're going to tape it out the way. Well, I've tucked it up out the way under these little clips you can see here to keep it away from these holes, because these holes have little clips that go in for the apron trim, which is here. So you can see just there I've got the trim clips, and also that screw hole is where a screw goes in the top piece here. So as that fits on there, the screw goes in, and the screw is actually hidden behind this little airbag piece of plastic cover. You just clip that off to reveal the screw. So there's just a little tip for you when you want to get one of these off. If you look at the other one, you can see it just there. So you need to take that little plastic cover off to reveal the screw. Okay, now comes the fun part. We've got to dig through the boot to find all the audio cables and the original amplifier. Right, let's start getting some of this out of here. Some new bulbs and whatever that is. That's heavy. Okay, so this piece we've got to unbolt, and the battery and the amplifier and the audio bits are under this little plastic trim inside here. So let's move some of this out of the way and we'll get this unbolted. Okay, so it's a 13mm socket. Right, so two 13mm bolts at the back, two 13mm nuts down the front. remove that and tilt it up. And now would be a good time to disconnect the battery. Just use that piece of card there just to stop that getting back on there. So now I need a Phillips screwdriver. There's a weird rubber thing in here, what's that? So this piece, 3 screws, and that slides out. You can leave the battery where it is. Now, if you look in here, this is actually our radio unit we're interested in. This is the aerial plug, the FACRA connector. So we can just unplug that. See if I can do it one-handed. Ow. Okay, no, I can't do it one-handed. And this is our quad lock block. We need to get off. Oh, come on, out you come. There we go. So this is what our extension lead is going to plug into. And the aerial extension, obviously this one. And we've got to run that up through under there to the front of the car. Also, just a quick tip, when you're running one of these extensions, you want to run it from the boot through to the front, because if you start at the front and run it all the way back, you're going to end up with this one at the back, which is bigger, because obviously that fits inside there. That one's bigger, and you'll struggle to get it through the gaps. So you want to put this one from the back through and feed it through to the front, because this one's smaller and you can just get it through. So I'll show you that anyway when we come to do that bit. Okay, so we've got our extension cable which we're going to run through, and this is the hole we're going to run it through, this square hole where the main cables go through. To get that, you just remove these pieces that are here, the little plastic trims. There's like a couple of little plastic nuts on these little threads, and then you can just untuck it from underneath that. I've loosened that off as well. There's 2 screws under that cover just to give you a bit of wiggle room. You don't need to take the whole thing off though, but we probably will need to remove that later, because we need to remove this trim to run the camera cable up. But yeah, that's the gap we're going to run our extension lead through, which is why we start from this end and use the smaller plug. Right, let's carry on. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video on the BMW X5. It is actually the next day, but this will probably be uploaded at the same time. As you can see, we've got loads of wire, and we've run it through, and we've removed the glove box, and we've run this cable up behind there. If you take the glove box out, it makes it very simple to just poke up through the gaps. And then in here we've got all the wires, and then here we have our other end of our block, I'll just shine the torch there because there's not much light in here at the minute. But yeah, here is our block for the stereo. So all we've got to do now is run that, tidy it and hide it all under the carpets, put that in all neatly. As you can see, it runs all the way through there to the back. This has all got to be dressed and put in nicely. Also, we have done the aerial wire. That's all done and plugged in as well. Right, so I'm going to get on with sorting out those wires and hiding them away under the carpets, and we'll come back with the next step. Okay, so we've got the boot area back together. The wires are nicely tucked in there. They tuck underneath that compressor, and then where they run through into there to the connectors. Now this plastic tray, that you remember we took this off, just cut a little plastic piece out of there, like a little square hole in the top of it, just to run the cables through. So then you don't get any trapped cables, and then when they come out the back they run out the same place as all the power and ground cables there from the battery and up through there. So we've still just got to do the bit where it comes through under the seat there, but everything else is all tucked under the carpets already. That's already hidden. So I'm just going to finish tidying everything up in here, and then the rear camera is next. So let's get this buttoned up and put back together, and we'll move on to the next bit. Okay, here you can see the two units side by side, the old one and the new one that's going in, and this piece I've fitted those little white clips on now, and they just pop in and clip in and hold on to that. So I was just doing some test fitting there on that. So we've still got the back to do, because we've still got the camera to wire up. Everything in the car, the back seat and all the trim is all back together. Glove box is all back together. Sorry, it's a bit dark. I'll pull the car outside later when I'm all done and show you everything, but you get the general idea. So all the trim is all back in. We've got all the wires up here at the dash. So we're going to carry on putting the boot area back together and testing the stereo as well. Wires. Do you think we've got enough wires? Oh dear. Excuse me. Right, let's try and get some of these in a nice position. Oh, there you go. Phone always rings when you're trying to do something, doesn't it? And we're back. Let's try and sort this mess out. Where was I? Oh no, bloody wires. Two USBs, we've got our GPS. They go over the right hand side, so we'll just make sure they're in the right position. Power and speakers is on that side. Steering wheel controls is also on that side, good. Camera block is on the left, so we can keep this piece here. That's good. And that I think, is it, apart from the antenna. So where is my antenna wire gone? Where are you? The normal radio antenna cable should be here somewhere. What's that one? Oh, that's the microphone, which is also right hand side. Cannot see the aerial wire anywhere. Where have you gone? Ah, there we are. There it is. And that goes on the left. So we'll leave that up this end. Lovely. Right. Right, I've got them roughly where I want them. Let's get them connected in to the back of the radio. Just pop it in there for now. Let's give it a try. Looking good so far. Comes on with ignition. Okay, let's just try normal radio. Oh, we have noise. And we have steering wheel button control. Brilliant. Right, that's all up and running. So the next piece we've got to do is at the back. We've got to do the rear camera and then finish getting this set in properly and screwed in place, and then the trim panel on. But that is looking absolutely brilliant so far. We're getting there. Right, so we need to get this wire up here, up to here, where the camera's going to go. Also, do you remember that Range Rover we did? Kept some of the fibre optic cable, makes a brilliant feeding cable, so it's nice and rigid, so you can use it to poke cables through bits of car, trim and everything. Try and go up this way, see how we get on. control for this. Dear. These are awkward to put back. Right, just got to line up all these little pegs. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, this is very uncomfortable. Right guys, here's a little tip for you. When you fit a rear camera to a car that's got CAN bus bulb warning, so if you've got one that tells you when your bulbs are blown, you can't just hook the camera and the reverse trigger supply straight to the reverse cable, because it won't work properly if it works at all. In this case, on the X5, it doesn't work at all. Unless the actual engine isn't running, then it will trigger and come on. So, the wire that comes from the actual tailgate, where the reverse lights are actually in, so the reverse bulbs are in the tailgate. you've got a white wire with a yellow stripe. That's actually your reverse bulb power. So what you have to do is actually run that and power a relay. So you power the relay from the reverse, and then you connect another supply, which luckily there was a blank plug here, so this plug in the back of this car is doing nothing. It's just an optional plug there. So we've took the power and ground from that to use, and all we're doing is when this is triggered, when you put your reverse lights on, it flicks the relay over, then sends a normal 12 volt supply to the camera and to trigger the head unit's reverse signal, so you automatically get your signal come on and your camera come on when you go into reverse, how you want it to be. So there's just a quick bit of information, quick tip for you, how to just put a relay in to actually work the camera. Right. If we just move around to the front now, we have now got, let's see if I can get some light in here. So we've got our head unit fitted in, we've got the screws holding the frame, side frame pieces onto those metal brackets. If you remember, we fitted those after we got them in the right place, obviously. So you just need the trim panel to come click back on, but I'm going to hold off on that for now because I want to pull the car outside, and I'm going to run through all the functions, make sure all the sat nav's working and everything else before I clip on that final front panel. So it's always good to just test everything, make sure everything's working the way it should be before you put the final touches together. And it simply clicks on, so I mean, we could simply click it on, but then it's a bit of a bear to get back off. So we'll do it this way round, make sure everything's fine, and then when you definitely know everything's 100%, then you can put on your finishing touches, which just takes a couple of seconds. So it's always best to do that first, just to be safe than sorry. Right, so let's get on with tidying up these bits. We've got that bit in the boot to just tidy up as well, those wires. Put the spare wheel and everything back in, and that'll be it for this car. Okay everyone, we've got the sat-nav tested and working fine. We've got our reversing camera, really nice picture there, really nice and clear. And we've checked everything else. We've got our steering wheel buttons working, so everything is good. So the last piece is our trim panel, which just sits like that, and that's it, she's finished. So we've got our lovely looking car, a lovely sunny day. We've got our reverse camera just there. All the wires are all hidden under these trims here and under the floor. Here as well, under there, all the way up, and we've got our USBs in the glove box. And that's it, she's all done, ready for the customer. Thanks for watching guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it gives you a few tips to do an install if you're working on one yourself. And also that tip about the relay for the rear camera, that does apply to any vehicle if you're having trouble with it because you've got bulb outage warning systems on the car. So with that, I'm going to get out of here, get on with the next job, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching everyone. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.